Start a new sport, learn an instrument or read a book. That advice from Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese to the millions of teens who lost access to their social media accounts today. The world's first nationwide ban bars under-16-year-olds from accessing 10 major apps, including Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat and TikTok. Social media companies have had a year to prepare for the restrictions, which, if seriously breached, could result in hefty fines. For more, we're joined by our correspondent in Sydney, Katie Silver. Katie, there's been plenty of build-up to this ban. How's the day gone down?
Well, so far we've been hearing about teens speaking about basically the 5 stages of grief and what they felt when they've gone onto their favourite platforms and seen that they've basically been deactivated. So one, for example, I heard had made a fake Instagram account for overage, and her regular Instagram account was logged out, but she could easily log into the other one. So at the moment, it does seem, as the eSafety Commissioner said, that it would be potentially slow and sloppy in terms of exactly how they were going to implement it. It seems, as I say, Instagram, Meta, not doing a great job so far. TikTok, on the other hand, different story. We're hearing about accounts being completely shut down. Now, you mentioned those comments from Anthony Albanese talking about instruments and sport. He's also spoken about it. This is a little of what he had to say today.
It won't be perfect because this is a big change. But I've been asked this morning in media interviews, what will success look like? Success is the fact that it's happening. Success is the fact that we're having this discussion. Parents are talking to their children around the breakfast table. Teachers, as we are speaking, will be speaking to their students. And we as a society, I must say, not just young people as well, but non-young people are also thinking about the impact that scrolling is having on their sleep, that engaging with each other, nothing beats interpersonal communication one-on-one.
So some very interesting points there, and that specific other clip that you mentioned where he talked about what's kids should be doing in their school holidays, that's apparently going to be playing in schools across the country back half of this week. There's also been, interestingly, a spike in downloads of alternative social media apps. So one, for example, that was created by the makers of TikTok, that's called Lemon 8. It's the top downloaded app at the moment on the Apple App Store. There's also Yope and Coverstar, which calls itself the safest TikTok alternative for kids aged 9 to 16. So certainly also teens looking for alternative platforms as well.
That does not seem surprising. You mentioned some of the media companies are doing better than others. How are they responding?
Well, interestingly, the last bastion was X, formerly known as Twitter. It has just, in the last few hours, was the last one to basically say that it's going to comply. In an update on its Help Centre page overnight, it basically said that it was going to take a multifaceted approach to age verification. So that can include things like digital face IDs, making people show government IDs, that sort of a thing. But X also said it's not our choice, it's what the Australian law requires. So there certainly has been some kickback from the social media companies who, of course, reject it. They see it really as being potentially very problematic when it comes to their pipeline. They say that they make very little when it comes to advertising dollars from young people, but of course those young people then become the people that they make most of their money as they grow up. We've also heard, for example, that they're going to be facing fines in the order of about 50 million Australian dollars for breaches. So there is significant pressure on them to try and get this right.
We have heard from the teenager involved in this legal challenge to the ban. Where is that at?
Yeah, it's a fascinating case. So there's 2 teenagers, Noah and Macy, and they've been supported by a freedom advocacy group in lodging this challenge. Now, they say that they're going to lose connections and that it basically violates their democracy. They say, for example, that the ban is like the government has said their democracy begins at 16, and that's something that they refute. Now, this is going to be a case that's going to be held in the High Court next year, so it's certainly something we're continuing to watch. But at the moment, it hasn't made any difference to today's rolling out of this ban.
You may have noticed it's summer, Katie, holiday season. There will be lots of Kiwis coming your way in Australia. And funnily enough, we've been getting texts asking us, what does it mean if you travel to Australia with a teenager who's got social media on their phone? What is the deal?
Well, likely they will not be able to access the platforms. You know, if especially if they're their platforms or their accounts are set at their correct age in New Zealand. Clearly, when they come to Australia, that will appear. It is for people in Australia, so it would apply to them. It's not just for Australian citizens. But again, the big question on all of this will be implementation and whether or not it's even possible.
Happy holidays, everyone. What about the global reaction, Katie?
I mean, there's been so many countries that are looking at this as a litmus test about whether or not it's something they can do in their country. So the big ones that have spoken and expressed that they're going to either be doing the same or closely watching how it plays out are the likes of Malaysia, Spain, Denmark and New Zealand. Now, Denmark, it's announced plans, for example, to ban social media for under-15s. Norway considering a similar proposal. We're also hearing about inquiries being held in the likes of France as well. Spain, for its part, drafting up a law that would require basically parental access. So certainly countries around the world looking at how they can mitigate these issues of social media, online harm, addiction that we've seen, and that issue of global governance, which has been so hard when it comes to big tech to try and navigate. So now we're seeing this Australia law being a litmus test for potential laws around the world.
It's interesting, Katie, because some of these teens will just be, 2 and a bit years away from voting, and I wonder how it's going to influence their politics.
It's a very good point. And as many of them are saying too, they might be 2 and a bit years away from voting, but they may only be a bit away from being 16. So they are certainly, some of them are basically only going off it for a couple of months and then they'll be able to be back on it. Whether or not they do have that flash and maybe that might lead to support for the Liberal Party, that's something we're going to have to see. There was, of course, bipartisan support for this in the earlier days, although more recently the Liberal government has said that they're not sure that the way that the Australian Labor government is enacting it is going to be effective enough. But many 18 to 20-year-olds who we've been speaking with actually say that they wish this had happened during their time, that they feel that they were kind of exposed to something that they weren't yet ready for, be it the ideas on social media, be it the potential addictive nature of it, and actually that it damaged their mental health when they were in the later childhood, early teen stage. So maybe there might be some appreciation in a couple of years that actually it was good for them, especially if they do go out and start those instruments, Lisa.